Hi everyone, today we are diving into JavaScript numbers. We are going to focus on their key properties and essential methods. Whether you're a beginner or looking to strengthen your understanding, this crash course will equip you with the knowledge to handle numbers effectively in your JavaScript projects. We will cover key properties, useful methods, parsing, rounding, and best practices. So let's get started. So we are used to first of all creating a folder in which we are going to be working in. So I'll create mine as JS Numbers on my desktop, and now I'll cd into it and then open it using my VS Code. So after opening my folder in my VS Code, I'll go on and create two files, which is one of index.js and the other one will be index.html. So I'll create just a boilerplate so that I can connect my index.html to my JavaScript. So I'll use the script tag, and for the script tag, as you always know, they take in a source attribute, which is going to be our path to the JavaScript file. Mine is called index.js. Now I can start writing some JS codes inside this index.js file. First, let's understand what numbers are in JS. In JavaScript, numbers are a fundamental data type used to represent both integers and floating point numbers. Unlike some languages that differentiate between integers, floats, and doubles, JavaScript treats all numbers as floating point under the hood. As you can see, declaring numbers is straightforward. Whether it's an integer like 42 or a floating point like 3.14, JavaScript handles them seamlessly. This flexibility is great for everyday tasks like calculating totals, measuring distances, or handling user inputs. We're now going to look at key number properties. So the first one is going to be now, let me just put their comments. So in JavaScript, you put their comments as 2 forward slashes. So the first one is going to be number, then max value. So with an underscore, not a dash. And so the two of them are almost the same. The first one is max value and the other one is min value. So we're going to be counting this as one property. So the other is number dot min value. So number dot max value represents the largest possible positive number, and number dot min value represents the smallest possible number greater than 0. This is how we can see that. So if we try to console both of them, so the first one can be number. So if you just write number and you put the dot, you can see different methods will start now showing up, or different properties will start showing up. Now if we just choose max value, and now we do a second one and we choose min value, we can see in our browser that this is our maximum value and this is our minimum value. And as you know, the E stands for exponential. This is like 5 powered negative 324. So number.max value is useful when you need to check if a number exceeds JavaScript upper limit, such as validating input sizes in financial applications. On the other hand, number.min value helps in scenarios requiring precision with very small numbers, like scientific calculations. Now let us look at another one, max safe integer and min safe integer. If we come to our browser, we can see now we'll get the two numbers. So the number, this one, the number max safe integer is equal to this one, and the minimum is equal to this one. These properties define the range within which integers are safely represented in JavaScript without losing precision. And this is very essential when working with larger numbers such as user IDs and financial transactions to avoid unexpected behaviors. So now let us look at another property which is also very common. So this is now number dot NaN. NaN stands for not a number. So this one represents an invalid number, typically resulting into erroneous operations, that is to say operations that do involving errors. So now let us console it and we see what we should get. So this is going to be number dot, and you can now see that it is also one of the properties. You can see now we get our not a number. So this was used to indicate that a value is not a valid number. And as I said, this is helpful in error handling and validation processing, ensuring that your application can gracefully handle invalid numerical inputs. So let us now look at our last one, which is positive infinity and negative infinity. Can obviously see that we have infinity, which is positive, and negative infinity. This is the infinity that you already know, which is like an 8 that lays down. It's an 8 symbol that is kind of laying down. So these properties come into play when calculations result in two values beyond JavaScript's numerical limits, ensuring your program can handle such extreme cases gracefully without crashing, like let's say when we divide by 0 and so on. So why did we have to look at these properties? So understanding these properties helps you manage and validate numerical data effectively, ensuring your applications handle edge cases and larger data sets reliably. And this is actually going to also give you a full understanding of how numbers do work. So now let us look at some essential methods provided by number objects that allows you to manipulate and format numbers effectively. So the first one is this one. So this one stands for is not a number. It is a function. First of all, these are methods. So all methods are function and they should be called. So now this one will help us to check if a value is not a number. An example, a simple example should start with the not a number special character. So now if we say is not a number and we put there this one, as we saw that this one represents is not a number, so we can now see that this is true. Of course this is not a number, but if we put there a number, let us put there a number and see what is going to be the result. So if we put there now a 2, we should expect to get false, because this is a number, right? You can see we got a false. The second one is number dot is integer. So this is almost the same as the one we just saw. This one determines whether value is an integer. So it is very obvious. If we are to use this one, we can see that if we put there now number dot is an integer, and now we put there 25, we should expect to get true. So you can now see we got a true because it is an integer. But if we put there maybe 25.5, this is no longer going to be an integer because integers are full numbers. So this one is going to be false because this is not an integer but rather a float. So even though JavaScript considers all of them as numbers, but some of these formulas will always help you distinguish the two. So this is very useful again when you need to ensure that a value is a whole number, such as counting items in a shopping cart or indexing arrays. So if you want to make sure that something is very positive or is a whole number, it is positive and a whole number, therefore you need to use is integer. So now let us look at the third one, which is number.parseInt, and we should also look at number.parseFloat, since both of them actually do the same thing. So similar to the global parseInt, as we shall see, and parseFloat, but these ones are only scoped to the number object. this is an object which has different properties. So now we can use them by just doing console.log. Guys, remember, I always repeat this, we are using always console so that we can have our results printed in our browser console, since JavaScript can either run in a browser or in a node environment. But right now we are so focused on running JavaScript in a browser. That is why we always connect our JavaScript file to our HTML code or our HTML file so that we can open it in our browser and be able to see our JavaScript running within our console. So now if we go ahead and do number.parse int and we put there 42. So if we look at what this one is going to console, it is going to console 42. But let us do it so that we are sure that this is a number. So let us do this. If we say constant and say string example, and we put there as 25, and also do another one as constant number example, and here we're now going to use our number.parse int. If we pass in now our string example here, now we can do console.log of the types. So if we do console.log of string example, let us see the type. Remember, we can use an operator called type of to check the type of a variable. So if we use string example, first of all, we can obviously see this. Let me collapse this. We can see this in our browser that this is going to be a string. Please guys, do not be confused about this. Let me put there these same columns. So this is going to be a string, right? But if we come and do the same thing, I've just duplicated this and I'll just do number type. And now instead of using the string example, I'll use the number example. We can see that this is now a number. Remember, this result was got by just parsing the string example. So therefore it was parsed or changed into a number, even though it was a string before. It was a string and now it is a number. So the same applies if we use parse float. So this is also going to do the same thing. We can obviously see that. So these methods parse strings into numerical values, with parse int converting into integer and with parse float handling the floating point numbers. These are very essential when processing data from user input. So whenever we are processing a number from the input, it is always a string. Therefore, we need to parse it into a number. We shall see this when we start working on forms. Now let us look at another one. Now this is going to be our fourth one. So this is going to be to fixed. Most of you have already used this. And to fixed, what it does, it formats a number using fixed point notation. So let me give you an example. If we have constant num and we have it as 2 point maybe 3, 4, 5 and 6, and now we want to round off. So if we want to round off to the nearest two decimal numbers, we can now use to fixed. So let me use console.log so that you can obviously see it within our console. So we'll just do num, and now this is going to be appended. Whenever you have a number and you put the dot, you obviously see a lot of methods and properties that can be applied to it. We can see now we have to fixed. So if we put there brackets, we can now fix a certain decimal number. You can see it even in the description. So this says that number of digits after the decimal point. So this is what you specify as an argument within these brackets. Now if we put there 2, it means we are going to stay with two decimal numbers, but again it is going to round off, so that we should expect the result to be 2.3 now 5. The reason being, whenever we are rounding off, if numbers are above 5 or equal to 5, then we should add a 1 to the number where we have stopped from. And if it is below 5, then it should stay as it is. So this is how you can round off within JavaScript. So now let us look at another one. Let us look at the fifth one, which is now to exponential. So now this is going to format or represent the number into an exponential notation. So exponential notation, let us look at how it would look like. So now if we have, let us first define a variable here. Let us say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if we now want this number to look like an exponential notation, then we should say num, then to exponential. You can see it here. And now you can also specify when should it start applying the exponential notation. If you specify 2, it will start applying it after the second one. So now if we look at this in our browser, you can obviously see now the E is coming in. So to exponential is useful when representing very large or very small numbers in a concise exponential format, such as scientific data or financial reports. So these are not all the methods for numbers. As I told you, whenever you write num, let me show it to you once again. So we already know this is a number. If you just type num, you should, and put there a dot, you should see a lot of methods related to num. In case they are gone, you can always again press Ctrl and space to bring back the suggestions. So you can see we have to exponential as we saw it, to fix, to locale string. This is also another method. To precision, this is also another method. You can actually play around with it. To string, this one converts now a number to a string. Value of, you can see different methods that you can use, different methods and properties that you can use on numbers. So please do not think these are the only properties and methods. You can explore more by just trying most of these that are given as suggestions. So oftentimes you will need to convert strings to numbers, especially when handling user inputs. As I told you, in most of the cases, you always meet inputs where a user needs to put in numbers. So therefore, it is very important to understand how you can always parse your strings to numbers, as the user will enter numbers, but they will end up being submitted as strings. Therefore, you need to parse them before you can send them to the server. So there are so many numerous methods which you can use to parse numbers. So I'll just provide now multi-comments so that you can remember how we can do multi-comments. So multi-comments is a / and now a star, and now whatever goes inside here, if we put a star and a / again, whatever goes inside here will be as a comment. So now the first one will be parseInt. As we said, you can do number.parseInt, but again there is also another method which is just parseInt, and this one can help us to convert or to parse a string into a number. There is also another one called parse float, as we saw it also. So this is also going to help us convert a string into a float number. So parse float. And there is also number. So we are going to actually look at them at the same time. So there is number like this. There is also a last one called honorary plus. So this is a shorthand for converting strings to numbers. So you can now make it the fourth, and this is just a plus. So let us now see how we can use both of them. So it means we are going to have 4 consoles. So I'll just duplicate this to buy some time. So if we start with the first one by using parseInt, so I'll just use parseInt, and then inside the parseInt I'll provide in a 4. This is a string, right? Because it is in strings, so it has to parse it into a number. So you can see it was parsed into a number. And if you want to check it, you can always use type of, so that you check out what it just gave you. So if you use type of outside the parseInt here, if you put here so if you come and do type of and you put here bracket, so therefore you need to provide another one, you can obviously see this is going to be a number, yet it was a string inside here. So the same will apply. I won't put their numbers inside, or let me just pick up all of this so that we can obviously see that. And if we do parse float, we can obviously see that this is also going to give us a type of number because this parse float has already parsed it into a number. So now if we look at also number, type of, and we use number, we can obviously put in something like 10. We shall also see that this is going to be a number instead of now a string. If we remove this one, you can obviously see this is going to be a string. So we need to put it back there so that it can parse it into a number. Then let us now try to use the plus one, the plus sign. So the plus sign, the way it works, I'll just grab also the same thing here. And now, instead of using this number, I will just now have to put there a plus like this. You can see this. You can see this is going to be also a number. Let me try to remove this plus and see what happens. It's now going to be a string, right? So this plus has an important role to play, or to pass it into a number. So you can now see how easy these methods make it for you, so that you can work with different numbers, or you can pass different strings into numbers. So the plus sign is a very good operation because it is a quick way to convert strings into numbers, and this one enhances code brevity and readability. So this is especially useful in situations where you want to perform arithmetic operations immediately. So be cautious when using these functions, especially parseInt, as it stops parsing when it encounters an numeric character, which can lead to unexpected results. So therefore, you should always check if your values are numeric. Now let us see how we can round off numbers. We just saw that toFix can help us do so, but there are also so many other methods that would help us. Rounding numbers is a common task, and JavaScript's math object provides several methods to help you achieve this accurately, and you can always modify it in any way. So now let us first look at the first one, which is Math.round. So let me just make this one a single comment. It will be better. So I'll just put there 2 forward slashes. So the way Math.round works, so this one is going to round a number to the nearest integer. So let's say if we have constant num, and this number is 4.7. So now if we try to console this by using so if you just write math and you put there a dot, it will give you different methods that can be applied to it. So we have a lot of methods that are related to math. You can see the round one. Now if you pass in your num, you should expect it to round it off to the nearest integer. So you can see now we have our nearest integer. So our nearest integer is 4. So if it rounds it to the nearest integer, now this is above 5, or this is above 4, because if we say 5, we should also include it in. So this is above 4 now. We will need to add a 1 to our nearest integer. So this is what is going to make up 5. If on the other way, if we have now here 4, this is not going to be 5, it is going to be 4, because whenever we have a number below 5, then we should add 0 here. So I guess all of you guys who have already learned this in your early mathematics. So now let us look at another one, which is now Math.flow. So the Math.flow, the way it works, it rounds a number down to the nearest integer. So if we try to use now here flow, we can see now we got a 4 here. So Math.flow always rounds down, making it ideal for scenarios where you need to ensure a value doesn't exceed a certain limit, like calculating number of pages in pagination. Let us put here a 7 again, and you see what will happen. It will stay 4. So this is because if you have like pages, as I gave you as an example, if you have pages now, so of course we know we can't have a half page, but again, instead of saying that there are 5 pages, you can always say there are 4 pages, there are 4 full pages. So You always see that you can use these methods differently in certain scenarios. Now let us look at the third one, which is Math.sail. So if we replace now our flow with sail, let me first explain this. The way the sail works, it rounds a number up to the nearest integer. So now let's take an example as 4. Let us start with a 4.1. Now we should expect a 5. So this is now different from the math.flow. So you can see it is now 5. If we have also 4.7, it will still be 5. So it is almost the opposite of flow. And where this one helps us, because it always rounds up, this is now useful when you need to guarantee a minimum value, such as setting container size in responsive designs. So you'll see if you start applying this, that all of these have a different role to play, which is actually going to now make a difference with the other one. So let us now look at Math.trunc. So this one removes the decimal part, effectively truncating the number. Let us now replace the cell to trunc. So let us also replace this one. If we have 4.7, now you can see it is going to be 4. If we have now 4.9, this is now going to result again into 4. So with Math.trunc, simply removing the fractional part, providing the integer portion. So this is almost the same as the ones we have been seeing, but this one just removes. It hasn't convert, but it just removes this decimal number. So which is actually different from the ones we just saw, like the math.flow and the math.sail. So it just, for this one, it removes. It doesn't see if it is above 5 or if it is below 5. It just removes this decimal number. So it just removed the decimal number and it had to remain with 5. If you also have like 13.9, this is just going to remove the decimal number and leaves it as 13. So that is how the Math.trunc works. And this is useful when you're in scenarios where you need to extract the whole number part, like extracting age from a birth date calculation, since the birth date should always be full. So now, as we learn different ways of rounding off, it is up to you to actually choose the right method to use in certain scenarios. Now let us look at the best practices with numbers. So before we wrap up, let us cover some best practices when working with numbers in JavaScript. We have now come to the end of our crash course, so congratulations, you just completed the comprehensive crash course on JavaScript numbers, their properties and methods. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your fellow developers. If you have questions or topics you would like us to cover next, drop a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated with all the latest content. Thanks for watching and happy coding.